What's up? I'm Mike Grimm, and this video is going to be all about basic exercise form. Now, I'm going to start off talking about our standing posture, but throughout that, I'm going to be discussing how that can relate to our movement patterns throughout different exercise motions. Now, this stuff's super important because not only is it super crucial, as we know, to keep good form and alignment to prevent injury during a workout, but this is the form we want to train ourselves to be able to maintain throughout the rest of the movements in our daily patterns. Just moving about your day, going upstairs, walking your car, sitting down. These little bits of movement patterns you spend more time doing than you do in your workout. Now, the workouts are more intense. They're probably going to take higher resistances and more repetitions in a single time period. So it's super important because, yes, with bad form, you can hurt yourself, but that doesn't mean you're spending the rest of your day, and or if you take a day off from exercise, you're still moving around. And so these are the movement patterns we want to train ourselves to maintain throughout the rest of our lives, okay? So let's get into it. All right. So I'm going to start off at our toes here. We're at our feet. We want to make sure set our feet hip width apart and parallel. I'm setting our feet hip width apart and parallel as a basis to see how the rest of our joints move, in our legs. So by parallel, we're referring to the second and third toe facing straight forward, not the big toe, not the inside of your shoe either. Sometimes our shoes are kind of deceiving, and we sort of look at that in the inside of the shoe. That's where I was looking down at, and your feet are slightly turned out. Really try to get the second and third toe facing straight forward. This might feel pigeon-toed. If you're not used to this form, you might feel like this is too far in. But if your second and third toes are facing straight forward, then it just means that you got some tightness, likely in your calves or elsewhere, that you're just not used to getting in this position, but it's okay. Work on it enough, it'll come in time. From here, with that parallel form, when you go into a squat, your knees should be able to stay right over your feet, right through the midline of your foot. As that knee bends, you should be able to see that your knees are not falling too far in or falling out of your feet, but staying right over top, the midline of your foot. Okay? It's very common for our knees to try to actually bend in a little bit. That can come from tightness that develops through a lot of our societal movement patterns of just sitting in couches and chairs at the office or in your car. We're in this seated position a lot, and a lot of that stuff we move through, it can tighten things up. Knees can fall in, toes can go out, or both. We're really trying to work on getting that alignment where their feet are parallel, knees are right over the feet. Now, when you're exercising, when you're going into maybe doing lunges or some kind of a step up, again, watching the same alignment. Now, even though I have 1 foot forward, it's really about how each individual's leg is relating to that foot. So if I step back with this foot, this knee, no matter what, has to stay over that foot. Okay, now let's say I want to do a wider stance squat, so I can take my squat a little bit deeper. This helps open up your hips so you can get a little bit deeper with the squat. Well, now that my feet are turned out, I still need to get my knees out over my feet, okay? It's okay that my feet are turned out for this exercise here, but as I do it, I'm therefore going to take my knees that much further out to be sure over the foot and over the foot, okay? Same thing if I'm going to maybe do a more dynamic motion. I'm going to step out to a lunge this way, and then I'm going to step out into a lunge in the opposite direction here. Each time, the knee bends right through the midline of that foot. Super, super crucial. From there, let's move up now to our hips, okay? Your hips you want to try and keep level, all right? So it's not unusual when we're doing step-ups or lunges. If you have a kind of bony protrusion here, you can put your fingertips on those bony protrusions, and you can kind of put your fingers there, and hopefully you're using a mirror or a camera so you can see your form here. And when you step up, it's not unusual for those to fall a little bit out of line of each other. Ideally, you want to be able to have the control to keep those bony protrusions absolutely level with each other. So that way, you're maintaining a nice neutral hip, and that therefore relates to a neutral spine. When your hips tilt around in different directions, it's directly tilting and giving up a little bit of that, the vertebrae in your spine, okay? Now, our vertebrae are designed to be able to do that motion, but when we're strengthening and doing things with intensity, we don't want to repeatedly hunch our backs all day long. We do that enough sitting in these chairs all day long That's where herniated discs can come from or where they can develop from. So keeping our hips neutral helps maintain our spine, maintain neutrality. Let's talk about the spine now. So with your spinal alignment, your spine has natural curves, which is why we use the term neutral spine as opposed to just a straight spine. But same thing, it's referring to the same thing. So with those natural curves, you still want to be up nice and tall. I say, imagine someone tied a string in the back of your head and is lifting you up through the back of your head. Lift up tall from that point there. So when I go to do my squats, I'm going to keep my spine still neutral there, and my hips are actually neutral to my spine, in relation to my spine, okay? We call that motion in our hips a hip hinge. So as you can see, my finger's on this bony protrusion here. My thumbs don't quite reach the other reference point of a bony protrusion back here, but I'll just put them on the side there, and you'll see that as I tilt, my hands are tilting along with my torso, my spine, okay? It's all working as one unit, as opposed to just simply hunching my back forward like that with a squat. Now I'm herniating my discs. If I take my squat a little bit too low, then somewhere down here, I get what sometimes we call a butt wink, where my lower back hunches out there. And that's because of some tightness in my hamstrings pulling my hips out like that. So that would be a bit too far for me to do with a lot of resistance. I'm not going to go that low with a squat if I'm bearing a lot of weight, okay? So we've got a nice tall neutral spine here. And from there, even we're talking about whatever kind of different dynamic balancing motions, I'm going to try and maintain this neutral spine. Maybe the exercise calls for me to do some kind of a rotation, okay? So I'm still going to try to keep as neutral as I can as I then pull through that motion. If I squat down here and I come up tall, nice and tall, long spine here. We spend enough of our days hunched all the time. We want to really try to train ourselves to maintain neutrality, again, so we can apply that stuff in our daily lives. If I got to go pick up my backpack here, I'm going to squat down nice and proper and pull it up that way, rather than just hunching over and yanking my spine around like that. Repeated motions like that over time, I'm going to sacrifice my spine. And I don't want to do that. I like my spine. I like my body. I want to keep it trained to be able to live a long, strong life. Let's talk about the shoulders, okay? So shoulders are going to be back and down. Now, this stuff can be tough here, okay? So sitting at desks and maybe internalizing a lot of stress into your neck can really make this difficult for people to try and understand. It comes with time. You just keep trying, you keep going at it. I like to use the term taking your shoulder blades and putting them into your back pockets. Okay, it's like, all right. Now, it's easier for me to just squeeze that down because I do it all the time. I'm very used to it. But there's musculature back there that helps secure your shoulder blades down. There's other exercises that can get you in tune with that. You can either work with a trainer or work with some of me in my videos here. But there's still ways to tap into how to get that squeeze down and opening up this space. So another term I like is getting your shoulders away from your ears, okay? Squeezing your shoulders away from your ears, keeping that nice space there. So no matter where my hands go, if they're going up over my head, or say I'm going to do, again, some pulling motion here, again, maybe that rotational move I'm doing, like this upward chop here, the whole time I'm actively trying to keep my shoulders back and down so the weight is transferred properly through my bones to my joints and leveraging it so that in a way that's not going to hurt the joints. So shoulders back and down, all right? And then the last little piece of the puzzle is your head there, which is really just the rest of your spine, okay? It's the cervical part of your spine. It's very common for us to have heads protruded forward, especially as we're working with phones these days, and we're looking down at this all the time, and muscles in our neck get tight, and constrain on our neck. So you want to keep your head up, but not just up, because sometimes with those tight muscles, we can end up here with the head protruded forward. We want the head back, okay? Head back in line with the rest of the spine. Now, this can be really difficult when you're doing a row or a chest press or a push-up even. It's very common in push-ups. You'll see people, as you're getting down, you're kind of protruding your head forward. It feels like you're getting closer to the ground. Really, two things. Not only are you misaligning your neck there, but you're shortchanging the push-up. You're not getting as low as you want to challenge yourself to be able to by keeping your head back, and you get a little bit more range in there. So it's a very common imbalance, but it's still something we got to try and work on. So you hear the term a lot of times with push-ups, people saying, keep your head up, and sometimes we end up taking our eyes up like that. Now that's a bit too far there, okay? I'm not trying to train, that would be overextension of my neck in that heavily resisted environment. So what I care about is keeping my eyes to the ground and head back with that, okay? Head back. Okay? Sometimes we refer to that as a chin tuck. It's almost like you're trying to make like a double chin. You're trying to squeeze and make a double chin back here. And this might take a lot of effort. You might have to really try to make a double chin there if your head is very really protruded forward from the rest of your spine. It's going to take effort to work that back there. It's going to take a lot of stretching to work that too. But in time, you can get there. So let's do a quick review, toes to head. So feet hip width and parallel. Parallel meaning our second and third toes facing straight forward. Knees are going to bend in line with the middle of each of its respected foot there, okay? Wherever it is, those knees stay right over the feet, okay? Hips level and steady. Spine up tall, neutral through the back of your head. Shoulders back and down. And your head back in line with the rest of that spine. So that's your good standing posture, and that's the kind of thing you want to keep through whatever movement pattern that you're doing, whether you be horizontal in a push-up or whether you're doing dynamic motions, bending your knees a lot, lunging forward, whatever the pattern, that's the alignment you're aiming for, and you want to try to train your body to maintain. Now, are there times where you're going to leave that alignment a little bit for a particular move or an exercise? Yes. This video is not about the exceptions. This video is about the stable foundation that you want to try to really build, that most of us have weakness on somewhere in that. Stabilize that, align that, and then from there, you can try to work on in specific areas where you're going to strengthen points that you're out of those types of alignments. Very specific. And if you want to get more detailed with this stuff, work with a trainer, I'd be more than happy to work with you, whether virtually or in person. You can follow some of my online classes, some of the other online videos I have, or you can just reach out to your community, find someone you trust, and that's going to really help you dial in your alignment and build your foundation of fitness up from there. All right? Thanks for watching. Appreciate you joining in on this. May you live a long, strong, and healthy life.